The problem with being insecure. By definition, insecurity can significantly impact mental health, leading to anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. It can also negatively affect relationships, career opportunities, and insecurities can manifest as self-doubt, fear of judgment, and a need for validation. The problem with insecurity is that it's so widely accessible these days through your social media, through the people around you, through your own self, that people just borderline pretend like it's not a thing. And also people throw the term insecurity loosely these days. You know, I truly do despise people who act like having self-respect or boundaries is an insecurity thing. To be honest, I'm taking a dig at a certain demographic of people here. We'll get into it. But today we're going to be covering a couple different realms of insecurity. And this video has been inspired by this person here. You know, I've decided that we're going to focus one video purely to insecurity. And then maybe we'll do a video on depression at some point. You know, I'm not too experienced in the realm of depression. And I know that there's different factors that go into it. So I don't really want to talk about it without doing a little bit of research and, you know, having a couple conversations first. But insecurity is something I can talk about because I, as myself, have experienced forms of insecurity. So has probably everybody. But there also just seems to be an increased amount of the word being thrown around these days when it's really just not insecurity. Anyway, let's get into it. So, an elaboration on insecurity as a whole. By the AI Google definition, I've just said, a couple of the ways we can elaborate it would be mental health impacts. So insecurity is like strongly linked to mental health challenges. Pretty much it just fuels self-criticism, self-critique, negative self-talk, anxiety, depression, diminished sense of self-worth, etc. Pretty much you just put yourself down all the time because you're insecure about things. A good example would be you're insecure with how you look because you see some like 10 out of 10 Instagram model who looks like a million times better only because their entire profile is essentially designed to look like some supermodel because they get paid to do it. Or, you know, they have copious amounts of editing or makeup. Or, you know, they have so much money where they can afford literally everything to make themselves look like a Barbie doll. You know, there's something beautiful about purity. Something that's just purely itself. So when you see something that's overly fake and literally looks like it's come out of a fucking artwork, yeah, it might be, you know, beautiful to look at or amusing. It's not as pure and natural as just a person by themselves. Like, even to a degree, makeup takes away from purity. And I ain't trying to take a go at makeup here because, you know, there are a lot of women that look beautiful with makeup and without. However, being pure solely to the fact just purely yourself with nothing additional added, that's beautiful in itself. Because that's truly you. That's you in the flesh, fully yourself. You know, you don't need no fucking money to compensate for your looks, and there's nothing wrong with that if you do want that. But I mean, look, that's just one way we can look at it. Relationship challenges. Insecure individuals may struggle to trust others and be overly sensitive due to criticism. Emotional distance in relationships that could also exhibit clingy and possessive behaviors. You know, this is the part we're gonna go more into this later when we cover the social media loose term insecurity, but this kind of covers like people who say that someone is insecure because they don't let their women wear whatever they want, or say women are insecure because they don't let their man do this or go out or do whatever. I mean, we'll cover it later, but that is kind of what people would think of when you say exhibit clingy or possessive behaviors or over obsessive behaviors. That's probably the most common way you can associate that. Anyway, career obstacles. Insecurity can hinder growth by making individuals hesitant to take risks, pursue opportunities, and assert themselves. That is true. That is very true, and I personally have experienced this with not only YouTube journey but other endeavors. I've been scared to reach out and do things because I think I'm going to be judged for it, because when you have a lot of attachment, you know, passion to something, and it gets critiqued by people you know, it just hits a lot harder than getting critiqued by random people on the internet. Because really, if I, for example, was to drop a song right now, or, you know, drop like a fashion piece or something, or do an acting debut, and it was good to me, but you didn't like it and you thought it was shit, the chance of me caring what you think versus someone I know in real life and I've known for years who has previously, you know, said some things that put me down, goes and says that, who do you think is going to affect me more? The person I have literally never met, and the only thing I could see is their fucking, like, anime girl profile picture with some weird gooner name versus the person who I previously had issues with and is literally making fun of me, and I know them, and it's probably making fun of me to other people. Obviously, it's going to be the second person, not the fucking anime girl with some fucking stupid name. Sorry, I'm not trying to take a dig at anyone here, but you get what I'm trying to say. Anyway, career obstacles is quite a big one. I mean, look, I'd say if anything, it's more associated to insecurities and stuff like anxiety and depression, but I mean, look, they're all intertwined. Anyway, manifestations. Insecurity often manifests as a fear of failure and need for external validation. This is also true. I mean, this goes into career expectations. If you always want to validate your own skill and your own ability and your own love for something, you'll show your friends or people you're close to. I have personally showed my friends multiple endeavors I've done over the years, solely just because, one, I need an opinion, but also because when they tell me it's good, it gives me validation. You know, it feels like a feeling of acceptance. And it's not a good thing when you're trying to branch out your shell, you know, do things that are out in the grand world of opportunities. But I mean, look, it's not that big a deal, really, because the way I look at it is that you need those opinions. You know, you need that negativity and positivity from people who give it to you straight. Although it might not help with your fear of failure, it can significantly make a life a little easier for you. Anyway, finally, root causes and coping strategies. Early childhood experiences such as lack of validation or support can play a role, as well as social media. And coping strategies. Addressing insecurities requires self-awareness, practicing self-compassion, and seeking professional help if needed. Right, so let's just get into the bad part of the video, the social media effect. Because really, modern day insecurity is kind of all directly linked to the internet and social media. Although there is insecurity that can be related to trauma and childhood experiences, let's not get into that. Because really, the only reason I'm really making this video, besides for that person's comment, is because I have a bone to pick with a certain demographic of people who use social media. Then we can go into the coping strategies to finish off. So, social media. Nowadays, there seems to be a very, very big factor when it comes to people on social media. Whether it's an influencer, whether it's someone who makes something, you know, whether it's someone in a relationship, whether it's some fucking cringe TikTok, there always seems to be a factor where it's men versus women and women versus men, or they versus whoever, or whoever versus whatever, right? It seems to be a thing where if one person does one thing, the entire world either fully supports that one decision or is fully against the other decision. I mean, as makes sense, you know, that's the reason why you have freedom of speech and choice, you know, to critique things in the way that you have your opinion. However, it doesn't feel like you're giving your opinion. It feels like you're just critiquing someone for living life the way they do. And a great example of this is the way that certain men and women choose to approach their relationships, and the way insecurity is being thrown into the mix. Let's start off with the most basic example. Alright, so the most basic thing I can think of that gets thrown around all the time, or at least most of the time what I see, is that there's two people in a relationship. Let's start off with a boy and a girl. So, a boy and a girl, you know, they're having an argument because the boy has told the girl, I don't want you to wear, you know, revealing clothing while going out. And the reason he doesn't want her to do it is because he fears as if the more provocative she dresses, the more eyes men will have on her. And although it's not a great thing to say, unfortunately, it's just the truth. Men will do that. I don't think every man will do that, and I seriously doubt that all men will be, you know, trying to come up to women and assault them or look at them and, you know, just be fucking creeps. But unfortunately, that is just the reality of our world, and there will always be one man or a group of men out there who will fucking do that shit, just as much as there'll be a bad woman or a bad group of women or a bad group of people out there, right? Point is, he's trying to give her logic and reasoning, and in her eyes, she's like, well, I want to wear what I want. Why can't I wear what I want? Right? And then they kind of have this back and forth argument. And then maybe he goes on TikTok or Instagram, or she goes on TikTok and Instagram. And then they share their side of the story, which isn't wrong. But however, when you're only sharing one side of the story or painting something in a certain light, people start saying either one of two things. Either one, your girl's insecure, leave her, she's a red flag. Or your man is insecure and he's a massive red flag, leave him, and this and that. I know I just said the same thing, but like the way, the context and how it's said is different. So men will just say, oh, if she's for the streets, she's a hoe, leave her, she's a red flag, she's a terrible person, she's probably going to cheat on you, blah, blah, blah. And then women will say, he doesn't deserve you, or you should wear whatever you want, you're beautiful just the way you are, he's a red flag, blah, 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 whatever, right? That's the first thing. So the problem is, it's not that them having a disagreement is the main issue here. The issue is that one of them is getting seen as insecure. In this, for instance, it's the man getting seen as insecure by maybe the whole internet, maybe by his woman specifically, maybe by the woman's friends, whoever. But when you hear or see things from outside perspective that say that someone's being insecure, the person reading that, because there will be someone out there who believes everything they read in the comments, or if they hear it enough, they'll believe it, will start to think that that person is just insecure, and they will start going against the boundaries that have been set up in a relationship. Now, why is this an issue? This is an issue because when you commit to someone in a relationship, you're making an agreement to, be each other's person. You want to bring each other up. And it is never not going to be a factor that people will have conflicting views or opinions on things. However, there always needs to be a middle ground to usually resolve something. Whether that's you just have to do what person A wants, or you have to do what person B wants, or you find some type of middle ground agreement that you both agree to before continuing. However, in this instance, because the internet and friends and other things comes into play, and this term of insecurity gets thrown around, it starts to become a thing where they start finding little things to get annoyed at. And instead of it being, everyone has their flaws, let's work through this together, it becomes reasons to break up with someone, or reasons to hate someone, reasons to, influence things like cheating, influencing, more provocative behavior, or more random crash outs and stuff like that, which doesn't help anyone. Now, let's flip the script to a little bit more of a complex situation. So, let's say it's, again, boy and woman relationship. The girl has asked the guy to stop texting other women because she feels that it's inappropriate and morally wrong to their relationship. The girl, she doesn't text any other men except her boyfriend. She doesn't have any male friends, or if she did have male friends, it's nothing like that. The guy, on the other hand, he's only dating her, but he has female friends. He texts other women. He likes videos and photos for the OnlyFans women and attractive women, Fashion Nova models, whatever you want, right? The woman has not asked him to unfollow all these accounts. She's not asked him to stop liking these posts. She's asked him to stop texting other women because she feels uncomfortable. When you put this story on Instagram, let's say the guy's posted saying, me when my girl tries to control me, blah, blah, blah. All the comments, most of the time, are men just saying, oh, leave her, she's insecure, bro, or go have another girlfriend, or they encourage cheating, or they say some things which just completely contradict things they'll say when women do the other thing. So it's just a thing where, like, either everybody's a hypocrite, or everybody's just throwing around terms and meanings without actually knowing the full context of a situation. Because, you need to have an outside perspective on things like this. When you have an argument with your significant other, most of the time, there's a reason it started, and there's a reason why you both feel a type of way about it. And obviously, every argument's going to be subjective and different. But it just seems to be that either one person will always stay with a narrow-minded point of view, and then nothing will ever change, which will eventually lead to either breaking up or some negative thing happening, or either both parties or one party agrees, to find a way to look at it from the other perspective, and then the argument will normally fix itself. By that point, you both understood why you're upset, and you push past it and grow as a relationship, which is, how it should be. Yet, now with social media, a lot of people, like to post stuff about their lives, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok, and they'll post arguments, they'll post story times, they'll post videos, things out of context, and then you'll just see people only going off the slimmer 10-second clip of context they have, throwing around all these terms like you're insecure, or you're this, or you're that. And the problem with that is that is it insecurity if somebody's trying to set a boundary? If somebody's in a wrong, that's different. However, we're not talking about that, because in this sense, there isn't a right or wrong, because the way you approach your relationship should be solely for you and your partner. You and your partner should talk about your boundaries or the way that you want to approach things prior to getting into a relationship, or at the very least, when you first get into a relationship, kind of make it clear what you're comfortable and uncomfortable with. And I know these days that everyone's into fast dating apps, one night stands, hookup culture, whatever. that doesn't mean you can't respect a person and what they feel uncomfortable with. I mean, look, I get it. I get that, you know, people don't really care about it that much. But at the same time, like, you're not going to get many people wanting to affiliate with you if you can't really respect the things that they want. You know, if someone doesn't want to go out, you can't force someone to go out. Just as, like, if someone wants to wear something, you can't force someone not to wear something. You know, if someone respects you and you respect them, most of the time, this issue doesn't even arise because they understand that it's probably something you shouldn't wear unless, you know, both parties are happy with it, or, you know, you're maybe there with the partner, or, like, you know, there's something in the way that makes it more acceptable, or you find a way to make it, you know, a little bit more alright. And the problem is, no matter how I try to explain this, it's always going to come off as opinionated, because unfortunately, me telling you this is just my opinion. However, the reason why it annoys me so much is that people like to throw around insecurity as just this magnum thing that every single person who says anything out of the ordinary to a regular person is insecure and they're a terrible controlling person. It's just like, bro, if someone doesn't want you to wear something, or someone doesn't want you to talk to other people just out of respect for how they feel, surely that can't be something you can consider insecurity. And even though, yeah, there might be some insecurity there, you're acting like this person is just so insecure and every single decision they make is completely guided to ruin the other person's life. And so I'm like, bro, like, it's one thing. If there's other issues, you don't know about these other issues because you're only seeing it from one point of view through one camera lens of a video that somebody took and randomly showed up on your For You page. And I guarantee you, you will probably never see anything to do with this person again, or at least the large majority of us will. So is it really worth it to get in an argument with this random girl or random guy or random person in your Instagram and TikTok comments for the sake of trying to prove a point that didn't even make any sense anyway? Alright, so for the last part of this video, we're going to be talking about overcoming insecurity. So building self-esteem, focusing on positive self-talk, practicing self-compassion and celebrating achievements, developing strong relationships, surrounding yourself with supportive and positive people who uplift you, seeking professional help like therapy can provide valuable tools, strategies, or addressing insecurity and building confidence. These are pretty much all the ways somebody can overcome insecurity, and I think building self-esteem and developing strong relationships is definitely the most important. I won't go too much into therapy because honestly, therapy is a little bit subjective here. You either think you should go or you shouldn't. If you're open to the idea, then definitely go do it. If you're not, don't worry about focusing on that too much, because therapy is the thing where you need to commit to it. You need to be open to it, otherwise you won't pursue it. You won't do it. You'll think you're wasting your time. You think you're wasting your money. You think the therapist will be asking you some stupid questions and nothing's helping. But if you go on with an open mind and you try to have a conversation, you know, treat it like a professional but also a friend, I guarantee you that you will have more results going about it that way than just going in for the sake of going in. So don't look into it unless you either really need it or you're open to it. Anyway, building self-esteem and developing strong relationships is a very, very good way to get over insecurity, mainly being that the more self-love and self-esteem that you have, the less chance you'll get insecure about things that you maybe have a little bit of doubt for. Especially if it's something meaningful to you, like your art, your passion, you know, the way you like to express yourself. As long as you are confident in how you go about your life and how you go about your craft and stuff, you will feel less insecure, because even though people might judge it, you will realize that that one person's opinion doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It's not like you're being ridiculed by hundreds and thousands of millions of people every single waking minute of the day. It's one person you had an altercation with, or maybe made a couple of comments that offended you, and you move on. Because if you let your life be defined by one person's opinions, you're always going to be insecure. You're always going to be, you know, basking in the idea of failure. And this is something I do myself, yet I have to find ways to push past it and move forward. Doesn't mean it's easy, but you got to do it. And then developing strong relationships is also important, because it's important to understand that the people around you are the people that help you grow as a person. You know, people say you become like your 5 friends. So if you don't have a good 5 friends or a good few friends around you, a lot of the time, you know, you're probably not going to be influenced very positively. If you've got a group of friends around you that only do drugs, you're going to start feeling left out because you're the only one who doesn't go out and you're the one who doesn't do drugs. Or maybe the friendship will start dwindling. And I mean, at that point, the friendship wasn't really a friendship if you look at it that way. But in the grand scheme of things, you're going to feel as if you're just someone who's wallowing away, falling into the background, and then you might start doing things that you don't actually want to do for the sake of fitting in and having those friends. Whereas if you have a group of friends that uplift you, whether they do drugs or not, they uplift you, they have those meaningful conversations, they want to hear about your stories, you want to talk about their stories, and you just do positive things. Maybe you all go to the gym, you all go for runs, you wake up early. These things start to rub off on you, and you start to see yourself doing the things that you thought you never want to do before. And it's important to realize that this is what strong relationships can do. Brotherhood and sisterhood is one of the most important things that we have on this world, and it's free. It's funny, all the free things in the world are the best things. But look, that's pretty much going to be it for today's video. I know that we didn't go too much into the end, but I mean, really, like, overcoming insecurity is kind of something you just have to do yourself. And the 3 things that I've named is really the only ways I can think of actually overcoming it. You just got to take everything one step at a time, one day at a time, one task at a time. And I promise, the more that you focus on trying to let go and move past it, the easier it gets. But anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.